I'm trying to go live. I just don't know if it's going live. Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Hello, hello. It's been a long time. You are seeing me in a space that you're not used to seeing me in. My house is a disaster right now. It is being renovated, and so I am hunkering down at my parents' house. So for those of you that have been keeping up, there have been some really interesting things happening, especially in the life of a coach. For some of you, you have seen that I have been going through a bit of a medical emergency. So currently I am deaf in this ear. It seems kind of funny to have this in because I can't hear anything. So they are trying to figure out what's wrong with me. But it's been really interesting through this last week that I've been going through this process that they're trying to figure out, is it a virus attacking me? You know, what exactly is going on? And so it's been really interesting. What I've discovered is, one, I'm scared to death, which I think any of us are afraid when devastation hits. And so many times, all of us have been hit with it actually, you know, recently with COVID and all the changes and losing our jobs and our kids being home. And then on top of it, you know, all the civil unrest and the ugliness. Hello, whoever's on, say hello. You know, seeing everything that's taking place in our country. And there's this time of devastation and pain and fear. And so I wanted to talk a little bit on that. I am not posting as much as usual because this hurts. It hurts to only have one ear that works and to try to manage the different kind of clinking that I have in my ear. I don't know how to explain it. But what I want to talk to you today about is recognizing your poema. And it has been abundantly clear to me in the last week that that is something that I am being pushed forward into, even in the midst of this medical emergency where they don't know what's wrong with me. And so in the midst of that, I am holding on to my poema, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I want you to recognize your poema. And that is really why I've called, you know, my coaching Poema. I did a big name change back in January and felt really called to change my name because it was like God said to me, you're going to etch this on your arm, but you're not going to like proclaim it. So masterpiece is what poema is. I believe that each of us has been given a God-given masterpiece, a meaning in life, a why. Everybody's is different and everybody's is uniquely their own. And so it's not something to be compared to somebody else's. I hear that a lot of times when women come to me trying to discover a path to move forward on, they compare and say, well, this is kind of silly that I want to organize my life. That's not much of a dream. I'm like, well, why isn't it a dream? That's your dream. And so your poema, I believe, is something that's uniquely given to you. And when you can discover that and when you can hold on to that, that is your foundation. That is your source of hope. And that's something that I'm holding on to right now, even in the midst of what I'm faced with. And it's daunting and it's scary. And, you know, all the what ifs of what if this thing, you know, goes into my brain or takes my other ear, and how are you supposed to coach people if you can't use your ears, you know? So all those what ifs are attacking me. But my poema is my rock. It's my foundation. And I've talked about that before. And that my poema, my purpose in this life that I believe I was called to at a very young age, I talked about it in the book, Coach's Wisdom. In fourth grade, I was called. I was called to help people. Now, not everybody feels that call like I do. And sometimes it takes a little bit more self-discovery to discern, you know, what's my why? And here's your thing. Your why can shift and change, but the root of it is expressing your deeply held values. So my why, my root, my foundation, my deeply held value is I have been called to empower other individuals into finding their poema, to finding that masterpiece that was uniquely given to them, and so that they use that in service to others, because that's what I believe poema is. Once you discover your masterpiece, your why, you're going to pursue it because you found it and you hold on to it and you love it and you're passionate about it. And that passion and pursuit then leads you into the service of others. And I really do believe the greatest calling all of us have on this earth is in service to others. Now, your service can be as a stay-at-home mom. Your service can be working at the bank. Your service can be as an RN. Your service can be as a teacher, as a grandparent, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a friend. It doesn't have to. A lot of times women come to me and think it has to be this grandiose thing, and it doesn't have to. The whole point of pursuing your poema and finding that is that it is your root in hope. So when everything else is happening around you, you won't be as rocked. So today I wanted to talk about, recognizing your poema. And as I said, in the midst of my medical emergency, I am holding very strongly to my poema. It's the one thing that's giving me hope. It's my foundation, my why. Think of your why as your foundation right here, and all the what's of life are going to pivot around that why. But this why is never going to change. The what's in my life are always going to transition and change, but my why, my poema, is always going to lay firm. So I want to tell you a little bit about a client that I've been working with for about 2.5 years, and she originally came to me because she was really upset about what was happening at work. And they had told her that she was going to have a promotion and things were going to happen. She had been diligently working for this hospital system, and it wasn't happening. And in the midst of that, she was really struggling with her values were actually being opposed while she was in this position. So some of her deeply held values are integrity and ethical responsibility, all of those things. And so she originally came to me saying, I need a new career. This is what we're going to work on. And so through the process of our coaching together, what we discerned was, yeah, it might be a good option, but the first thing we needed to discover is what your poema is, and how you're going to pursue this, and what is getting in the way of you having this as your bedrock. Because you're going to have a crappy job, right? We're going to have medical emergencies. But if we can't find that poema, that purpose, we're always going to be rocked. We're always going to be unhappy, not content with life. So we had to really set aside and say, okay, this is what she really thinks it's the career. We're going to work on this, but then let's really discover your deeply held values. How are they being expressed? How are they not being expressed? How are they directly being opposed? And how we can utilize the strengths that you already have. And so through this process of working with her, we then uncovered that there was a deep lack of self-worth, and that was expressing itself in her work and how she was taking on the negativities at work, all of that, if that makes sense. So if you have questions, drop me a question. I think I'll be able to see them. So with her, it's been a really extraordinary experience, and she's still with me. I'm so grateful for it. I've known her for so long now. It's wonderful. It's like family at this point. But what's wonderful is that we did dig into the career. That was a part of it. But we also dug into her poema and really worked on this self-worth, self-confidence that was getting in the way of her stating her worth, stating her poema, standing clearly in it, and not being as rocked by negativities that might be circling her, right? So poema's here, what's are here. So the negativities of work were going all around her, but it was knocking her around because she didn't have this solid foundation. So what's been really amazing to see, especially in probably about the last 8 months, is she did get a brand new career. She moved clear across the United States. She left the only city that she's lived in with her family, and she went to a new position. And what's really interesting is that she was sent really to her own desert by herself, this town all by herself. And it forced her to focus on the poema. What's my purpose? How am I going to overcome some of these self-worth, self-confidence issues? Because I'm never going to, she wants to grow in leadership professionally. She's like, she recognized I'm never going to grow here if I don't get down here figured out. And so she's really been in the pursuit of figuring the bottom out, and she's hitting it. And it's really extraordinary as a coach to see that happen. So in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be doing some interviews with some clients so that you all get an idea about what is this coaching thing, because you can hear from me, but I think it's better for you to hear from other clients. So this week, I want to talk to you about recognizing your poema. For me, and I say this a lot of times to clients, sometimes it'll feel like it's not a choice. It's not a choice, but that you've been chosen to move forward in something. I'm working with another woman, and she just turned 60, and she reached out to me and she's like, I'm done. I know there's something. I need to pursue it. So there is no time that's the perfect time. You know, you're never too old or too young for you to decide, I am going to pursue something. I feel something in me that I'm called to. I just don't know how to put it into words. And that's what she's doing with me. So many times when you're trying to discern your why, your meaning in life, your poema, it feels like it's not a choice, but that you have been chosen. So it can be that kind of idea that you have in your head, and you think that people are going to laugh at you or ridicule you or say you're stupid for pursuing this. Whatever that is your why in the moment. I can tell you with my best friend, she pursued in vitro pregnancies, and it was so hard on her, you guys. She's been through so much loss, so much pain, so much, but she kept pursuing it. And I can tell you from my perspective, even, I'm just like, gosh, how did she do this? Because in my heart, I don't know if I would have ever been courageous enough or brave enough for me to pursue something like that. So it wasn't my why. So in my mindset, I'm like, wow, I just don't know if I could do that. But here's the thing. She stuck to it. She stuck in with the pain because her why was, I'm going to be a mother. I'm going to have children. That's her poema. That is her why. So all the whats that were coming at her, they hurt, but it didn't rock her why. Does that make sense? And so she felt it wasn't a choice. She was chosen to be a mother, and she pursued it regardless of the financial strain, regardless of what people said to her, regardless of how her body was just so angry at her with everything that she had to put it through to become pregnant. And the beautiful thing is she has 2 little boys. So her poema was those 2 little boys. So again, your poema can be very different. It doesn't have to be a career. It doesn't have to be anything like, it's yours. That's what I want to say. So many times when you're trying to recognize your poema or what you're trying to go toward, it feels like it's not a choice, but that you have been chosen for that. Okay. For that, whatever that may be. And a lot of times it's a deep call, and it's impossible to ignore. It's one of those things where you feel it, but it's impossible to ignore. Your mind keeps going back to it. It's not rumination where you're focusing on the negative, but it's impossible to ignore. It's just like that little, kind of tapping on your heart saying, we got to work on this. We got to work on this. So that's another way that you're going to really recognize that you have a purpose, a poema that you need to pursue. The other thing to recognize your poema is that it is really going to use your personal strengths, okay? So the characteristics that you have, or those deeply held values, they will be naturally expressed in your poema. So a good way to think of it is that the strengths are who you are, and the skills are what you do with it. Okay, so my deeply held poema is to serve others, to help others. My skills are what I do with it. So I've done that as a mental health counselor. I've done that as a chef. I've done that as a mom, as a wife. I've done that, in all kinds of different areas. And I can see my thread of my poema through each one. So you are going to see your strengths, your characteristics, your deeply held beliefs expressed through this feeling of I'm chosen to do something. And your skills are how you use those strengths, that poema, moving forward. And that's the great thing about when you can finally discover where you're going, is that for me, I mean, I've had so many different careers, right? But I can see my thread through all of them. So I don't I don't become discouraged. I'm encouraged because my strengths, my poema are always expressed. The why, or excuse me, the what of what my skills, how I use them within my skills, that may change, okay? So that's another way that I want you to consider recognizing your poema. What are those strengths that you have? Those deeply held beliefs that you have that you're expressing in your life right now, okay? Try to think about that, because that's going to give you a bit of a magnifying glass to identify what that poema is and helping you recognize what that is moving forward. And the third thing that I want to talk to you about, and this is a big one that's been on the top of my mind this week, is that if you are afraid, more than likely, if it's in pursuit of your poema, your God-given uniqueness, your plan, your dream, your goals, if you're afraid, that fear is not telling you to stop. It's telling you to move toward it. Our brain doesn't like anything new, right? And so we run away. It's like, oh, it's scary, I can't do it. But I'm telling you, if you can harness that fear and recognize that it's telling you to move towards something, and that fear is the wonderment of what could be. So fear in our bodies feels the exact same way as excitement and adrenaline. I mean, think about going on a roller coaster. You know, chug, 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 chug. You start going up and your heart's beating and you're freaking out, you're getting adrenaline and you're crashing down. That's fear, but it's also adrenaline and excitement. And that's what I want you to harness. If you start feeling fear in pursuit of recognizing your poema or pursuing something that you feel chosen for, recognize that that fear many times is a direction towards something, not away from something, not away from something. So that's just a little bit today that I wanted to share with you. I do have a Meaning of Life in Life questionnaire that I've put together. This came out of a university. It's not mine. It is copyrighted, but I put it into a nice little package for you all. And it's going to help you really discern where you are in your search and your presence for your meaning in life, your why, your poema. So I will drop the link down below for you all to download it, because it really is going to allow you to be reflective and introspective of where you are in the process. So if you're feeling a tug of, I'm missing something, I think there's something I'm chosen for, I don't know how to get there, this is going to give you some insight and really going to help you with that. So thank you so much, everybody. Again, I apologize for being quiet on here. I appreciate all of your prayers, everything that you've sent to me. God's got this. We're going to see what happens. And thankfully, I have one ear that works. So if you have any questions, anything, please be sure to reach out to me and I will drop that link. Let's see if I can drop it right now for everybody. I can. Here is a link for you to go ahead and get that that downloadable Meaning in Life questionnaire. This is a psychological kind of behavioral personality kind of questionnaire that came out of, I believe, Michigan University. I might be wrong. Minnesota. It was one of the M's. But it is not mine. It is copyrighted. So, but it will give you some insight and some opportunity for reflection in your pursuit of poema. So thanks everybody for joining me today. I hope you're well. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you soon.